Portugal starts off where we are in the 15th century as an economically and militarily very weak nation driven to the very edge of Europe. Nonetheless, they can harness their advantages on the sea and end up becoming a real world power, and I think it's that change of fortune that makes Portugal one of my favourite countries to play in Europa Universalis for. As such, their missions have been translated into the new mission system quite a bit, so if we have a look at here, they of course have plenty of missions we're going to work our way through, starting with the shorter of the tree, the competitive advantage. So to start off their chain of going into North Africa, they're going to have to reach 100% of their force limit, bringing their fleet into the 20s. That'll then give them the claims they need to go down and conquer Tangier to gain their competitive advantage, and then make their way down the buffer zone, where they have to conquer more of the coastline away from Morocco. Taking the coast away from the Berbers is something you certainly want to do to avoid them from raiding your coasts, and doing so they're going to boost the economy of the areas that they conquer, very useful for Portugal. They of course have access to these 15 generic missions that are available for most of the world, and on the other side of the mission tree here we have one hell of a long branch. It starts out with Beyond the Cape. What they have to do is discover any province in the West African coast. Is going to start them on their way down to the Cape. It's going to give them prestige, extra settler chance and settler increase, because no doubt Portugal is going to be colonizing lands along the way. Of course that'll help them along colonizing West Africa, which then splits down into 3 different missions. Again, nothing mutually exclusive here. You can do one of them, you can do all of them, you can do none of them. It's up to you. That of course is going to let them central in Central Africa here. That'll be complete when any province in the Congo region has been discovered and fully colonized. There's also going westward here, so they have to discover any province in colonial Brazil. And then there is of course the Cape of Good Hope. They're going to have to discover land down in South Africa whilst maintaining quite a bit of heavy ships and a large fleet. So lots of missions there and lots of rewards to be gotten, plenty of things helping with colonization and with their navy. Working their way down, they can get themselves some Brazilian dominance, so we can spawn Blanca over in the New World. And yeah, the missions here split quite a bit. We have the shipyards of the east, so they're going to have to discover and take areas in Sofala, so I don't think Kilwa or Mutapa are going to be particularly happy about that. And of course also gaining control of these shipping lanes here. If they manage to get all the provinces in the Cape of Good Hope area, they will be rewarded again very healthily with the trade to buff up that Portuguese economy. Got to bring that wealth home. Working our way down, they will set their sights on the Horn of Africa and Zanzibar, and these missions will be giving them the permanent claims they need to fulfill these. They even get to take on poor Hormuz, and then again Hormuz is quite a bit more swole than they were when they were first introduced into the game, giving a pretty decent buff to the province itself once it's under control of the Portuguese. And then of course they work their way into India and into Indonesia. Again, they're going to have to discover the lands there and settle their way into Indonesia for some pretty lovely trade prestige bonuses. And then onwards to Cathay and securing trade. Again, these have great prestige and diplomatic power bonuses. What do they have to do though? Discover at least one province in South China region and in the Japan region. So when Portugal sends out their explorers, they're going to be fulfilling their missions pretty well. And of course, securing their trade means they also have to become the strongest trade power in Malacca. If they maintain their fleets and take over certain provinces over there, they're going to have a real edge in doing so and get even more trade buffs. So a hell of a lengthy tree available for Portugal. Like I said, that's part of why they are just one of my favorite nations out there.